Have you ever wondered why, in the wealthiest era of human history, poverty seems to be an unsolvable equation? We have split the atom and mapped the human genome, yet the percentage of people struggling to survive remains hauntingly stagnant. Since the 1960s, in the United States alone, over $22 trillion have been spent on the war on poverty. To put that in perspective, that is enough money to buy every single professional sports team on Earth multiple times over. It is more than the cost of every military conflict the nation has ever fought. And yet, after 60 years and $22 trillion, the poverty rate has barely budged. Why is this? Is it a lack of resources? Is it a lack of compassion? Or is it something much more calculated? There are many theories floating around academic circles, but today I will present to you 3 key reasons why the poverty trap is not a failure of the system, but a fundamental design feature of the modern administrative state. By the end of this video, you will understand how the very programs designed to catch you are often the same ones designed to keep you, and more importantly, why a dependent population is the ultimate asset for a government. To understand the mechanics of this trap, we have to look at the people who run it. Imagine you are the CEO of a company that manufactures umbrellas. If it stops raining forever, your company goes out of business. You lose your salary, your employees lose their jobs, and your power in the market vanishes. In that scenario, do you have an incentive for the sun to shine, or do you have a secret, perhaps even unconscious desire for a perpetual storm? This is what economists call the iron triangle of bureaucracy. The people who manage poverty programs, the administrators, the social workers, the government consultants, are part of a massive industry. If poverty were to actually disappear, if the war on poverty were actually won, these millions of people would be unemployed. Their budgets would be cut. Their political influence would evaporate. Why is this important? Because in the world of government, a solved problem is a dead budget. Therefore, the system is incentivized not to solve poverty, but to manage it. They want just enough relief to prevent a revolution. Let's look at a historical experiment to understand how this management works in practice. In the early 20th century, researchers found that an animal provided with a constant, predictable source of food eventually loses the ability to hunt. Its muscles atrophy, its instincts dull, but more importantly, it becomes psychologically bonded to the entity that provides the food. This is not because the animal is lazy. It is because the brain is a biological machine designed to conserve energy. If survival is guaranteed, the drive to innovate and take risks is suppressed. The government understands this biological reality. By providing a floor that is just comfortable enough to survive, but just restrictive enough to prevent wealth accumulation, the state creates a cycle of learned helplessness. Guess what happens when you spend a decade in this cycle? You don't just lose your savings, you lose your agency, the belief that your actions can change your outcome. This is the first pillar of the engineered poverty trap, the psychological transition from a citizen to a ward. But the trap isn't just psychological, it is mathematical. And this is where it gets truly insidious. Have you ever heard of the welfare cliff? Imagine you are a single mother working a part-time job. You receive housing assistance, food stamps, and childcare subsidies worth $30,000 a year. Now imagine you get a promotion. You are offered a full-time position that pays an extra $10,000 a year. You're excited, right? You think you are moving up in the world, but then you do the math. Because you earned that extra $10,000, you are now too wealthy for the subsidies. You lose your housing voucher, you lose your food stamps, you lose your childcare. Suddenly, that $10,000 raise has cost you $20,000 in benefits. By trying to improve your life, you have actually made your children poorer. This is what economists call an effective marginal tax rate. In many cases, a person moving from welfare to work faces a tax rate of over 100%. Think about that. Even a billionaire doesn't pay 100% on their next dollar. But the poorest among us are punished the most for trying to succeed. Why is this important? Because it creates a rational disincentive. The system is literally programmed to make escape a bad financial decision. It builds a wall that only lets you through if you are willing to watch your family suffer. Now, let's talk about the sociological engineering of the family unit. For thousands of years, the family was the primary safety net. It was the source of stability, the transmitter of values, and the first line of defense against economic hardship. But look at the rules of many poverty programs over the last 50 years. Many specifically stipulated that to receive maximum benefits, there could not be a man in the house. If a father was present and working, the family was disqualified from aid. What was the result? The state effectively replaced the father. It incentivized the breaking of the family unit. Why would a government want this? Because a strong, cohesive family is an independent power structure. A family can save money together. A family can support its own members. A family doesn't need a social worker to tell it how to live. But a broken family is fragile. A broken family is dependent. By subsidizing the absence of the father, the state didn't just create a poverty trap, it created a connection trap. It ensured that the primary relationship for millions was not with their parents, but with the administrative state. They aren't just managing your wallet, they are managing your social architecture. This leads to the administrative leash. When you are dependent on the state, your life is no longer private. To get your check, you must report your income, your living situation, your relationships, and your spending. You're under constant surveillance by the bureaucracy. Why is this important today? Because we are moving into an era of algorithmic governance. In the past, you dealt with a social worker who might have some empathy. Today, you deal with a database. If the algorithm detects a violation, your benefits can be cut off instantly. No trial, no jury, just a 404 error on your survival. This creates a level of compliance that no dictator in history could have achieved through force. You don't need a police officer on every corner if everyone is afraid that a wrong move will stop their ability to buy groceries. This is the ultimate form of social control. The safety net is not there to catch you. It is there to tether you. It is a leash made of paper and pixels. Why is this accelerating now? Because we are entering the era of artificial intelligence and automated displacement. The elites know that millions of jobs are about to vanish. They know that the gap between owners of capital and sellers of labor is becoming a canyon. Their solution is not to empower you to become an owner. Their solution is universal basic income and expanded welfare. They want to put the entire working class on a digital allowance. Because a person with a small independent business is a threat. A person with a paid-off home is a threat. But a person who waits for a monthly deposit from the central bank is a customer. They are a user. They are predictable. This is the transformation of the citizen into a service tier. You are being moved from the producers category to the consumers category. And the government is the only reason you have the credits to consume. Look at the housing market. Look at the cost of education. Look at the way subsidies always seem to drive prices up rather than down. When the government subsidizes student loans, the universities raise tuition. When the government subsidizes rent, the landlords raise the rent. The help never actually stays in your pocket. It flows through you and into the hands of the large institutions that the government actually serves. This is the illusion of support. It is a sleight of hand that keeps you focused on the monthly check while ignoring the fact that your purchasing power is being destroyed by the very system that claims to be your savior. And then there is the invisible tax that hits the poor the hardest. It is the most powerful tool in the arsenal of the engineered poverty trap, and it is the reason why your free money will never be enough to buy your freedom. It is the mechanism that ensures that even if you save every penny, you are still running on a treadmill moving faster than you are. This mechanism is the silent partner of every government dependency program. To understand the true depth of the trap, we have to look at the very nature of the money being given to you. Because if the money itself is a trap, then the floor they provide you is actually a sinking ship. This sinking ship is powered by the most efficient engine of wealth destruction ever devised: inflation. Have you ever wondered why the prices at the grocery store or the gas station always seem to rise just a little bit faster than the cost of living adjustments in your government check? This is not an accident. It is a mathematical certainty of the system. You see, when the government prints money to fund its massive dependency programs, it is not creating new value. It is simply increasing the number of currency units chasing the same amount of goods. Think of it like a pizza. If you have one pizza and you cut it into 4 slices, you have a certain amount of food. If you then decide to cut those same slices in half to make 8 slices, do you have more pizza? Of course not. You just have smaller pieces. Inflation is the process of the government cutting your slices smaller and smaller every single year, while telling you that you should be grateful because you now have more pieces. Why is this important for the poverty trap? Because the wealthy do not keep their wealth in cash. They keep their wealth in assets, real estate, stocks, gold. When the government devalues the currency, the price of those assets goes up. The rich actually get richer. But you are given cash. You are given a fixed income. As the value of that cash evaporates, your ability to buy your way out of the trap vanishes. The floor they gave you is made of ice, and it is melting under your feet. This is what economists call the Cantillon effect. The people closest to the money printer, the banks and the giant corporations, get the new money first before prices rise. By the time that money reaches you in the form of a welfare check, the prices have already adjusted upward. You are always the last one to the table, and you are always left with the bill. Do you understand the genius of this? The state gives you help with one hand and then uses inflation to steal the purchasing power of that help with the other. It is a perfect, invisible tax that requires no vote. Now let's look at the second major barrier to your independence, the credentialing trap. Have you noticed how many simple jobs now require a government license, a permit, or a specific degree? In the past, if you were a good cook, you could start a small catering business from your kitchen. Today, you need a certified commercial kitchen, a city business permit, occupational licenses, liability insurance, and a mountain of paperwork. Why does the government do this? They tell you it is for public safety, but is it? Or is it a way to protect the giant corporations from small-scale competition? These regulations act as a gated garden. The big players can afford the lawyers and compliance officers, but for a person trying to climb out of poverty, these costs are a wall they can never scale. The government has effectively criminalized the first steps of entrepreneurship. They want you to be a compliant employee or a grateful recipient, but never a sovereign competitor. Every time the government adds a requirement, they force you back into the administrative leash. We are moving toward a world of programmable money and digital IDs. In the near future, your access to government assistance, housing, and even the economy will be tied to your digital social profile. Have you seen the social credit systems being tested? Do not think for a second that it cannot happen here. Imagine a world where your welfare credits can only be spent at approved corporate partners. Imagine if your free money expires if you don't spend it fast enough. This is the ultimate subscription life. You aren't just renting your home, you are renting your right to exist. Why? Because a population of independent property-owning citizens is a population that can say no. They can withhold their taxes. They can live off their own land. They are a threat to the administrative state because they don't need the state. But a population that is 80% dependent on the government is a population that will never revolt. If you disagree with the government, they don't need to put you in a cell. They just need to turn off your survival app. They just need to recalculate your eligibility. Do you understand the power dynamic here? Dependency is the highest form of political control. The engineered poverty trap is the process of turning the safety net into a control grid. Let's use an experiment from sociology called the dependency ratio. When a society reaches a point where more people are receiving from the state than are producing, the political incentives shift. Suddenly, the most successful politician is not the one who promises opportunity, but the one who promises the most security. This creates a race to the bottom. The producers are taxed more to fund the dependents, which causes more producers to give up and join the dependents. Eventually, the entire system collapses under its own weight. But until that collapse, the people at the very top, the zookeepers, have total control. They manage the decline while living in protected enclaves far removed from the safety web they have built for you. So, how do we break the trap? The first step is to recognize that help from the state is often a high-interest loan on your future. We must prioritize ownership over access. Owning a physical skill, land, a physical book, holding physical currency, these are the things that provide the exit. We must demand a reduction in the barriers to entry that prevent the poor from starting businesses. We must reject the digital leash of conditional benefits. Most importantly, we must rediscover the agency that the system has tried to train out of us. You are not a unit of management. You are not a data point in a poverty simulation. You are a sovereign individual with the capacity for production and independence. The engineered poverty trap relies on your belief that you cannot survive without the system. It relies on your fear of the nature reserve and your love for the golden cage. But remember the bird in the cage. The seeds are only provided as long as the bird stays in the cage. The moment the bird tries to fly, the seeds stop. Is a life of guaranteed seeds worth the loss of your wings? This is the fundamental question of our era. The government doesn't want you to be wealthy because wealth is power, and power is the ability to say no. They want you dependent because dependency is predictable. The escape is through production. It is through the creation of value that is outside the closed loop of the state. It is through the rebuilding of the family and the community as independent support structures. The only way to win the war on poverty is to stop being a liability on the government's balance sheet and start being an asset in your own life. This is the great awakening of the modern age, realizing that the hand that reaches out to catch you is often the same hand that is holding you down. I am Professor Jiang. Stay independent, stay curious, and never let them tell you that your dependency is the same thing as your security. A dependent person is never secure. They are only permitted. Goodbye. To reclaim your sovereignty is the highest form of rebellion. Master your destiny. Production is power. Sovereignty is your goal. Goodbye. To reclaim your sovereignty is the highest form of rebellion against the administrative state. You must become a producer, a creator of value, and a master of your own destiny. The road ahead is long, but the freedom it offers is the only true wealth. We at Global News Agora thank you for your time. Until next time, stay free. The only way to win the war on poverty is to stop being a liability on the government's balance sheet and start being an asset in your own life. This is Global News Agora. Goodbye.